Grothman for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to address some of the votes that took place on the floor last week, in particular, the vote regarding a continuing resolution designed to keep the government open that was taken here last Friday. The effort to keep the government open failed 232 to 198. Every Democrat voted against that resolution to close the government, but what I'm going to address is the fact that 21 Republicans voted against keeping the government open at that time, and the press, in particular the New York Times, but probably other organs as well, referred to those 21 people as hardcore conservatives. You know, as our country goes under, some people are going to blame the executive, some people are going to blame Congress, some people blame the courts, but I got to say, a lot of it has to fall on the utterly incompetent press corps of this country. Hard-line conservatives. Let's look at the bill that we wanted to have keep the government open last Friday. First of all, a continuing resolution is primarily about spending. And that spending bill cut spending, discretionary spending, on all but veterans, the border, and defense by 30%. In other words, across the board, you put everything else together, discretionary spending on the Department of Education, the Department of Commerce, the Department of Interior, the State Department, Energy, the legislature itself. A 30% reduction in spending. How in the world can you say the people who voted for the 30% reduction in spending are not conservative? And how in the world can the press corps refer to the people who voted against a 30% reduction in spending as the hardline conservatives? Of course, we all know part of that bill was not just focused on government spending. Probably the biggest crisis facing America today is the massive group of people coming across the southern border. Over 200,000 a month. In addition to that, we have all the unaccompanied minors, 8,000 to 10,000 children coming across the southern border with no adult accompanying them at all. And in that bill, we also tried to add 22,000 no-border agents and catch and release, so people showing up at the southern border would be kept in Mexico, and the policy of inviting unaccompanied minors into our country. In other words, dealing with the immigration crisis. So we had two parts of the bill, a 30% reduction in discretionary spending on so much of the budget, and in essence closing down the border to prevent all these people coming here illegally, as well as to prevent the drugs coming across that cost over 100,000 Americans a year. And the press corps in this country has the nerve to say that the people who sided with the Democrats to kill this bill are hardline conservatives. I call upon the slumbering press to wake up and pay attention to what's in these bills and tell us exactly what you mean by hardcore conservatives if they vote against the bill. There may be a variety of motivations to vote against a bill, maybe personalities, maybe you want to fancy yourself a hardcore conservative and you count on utter incompetence in the news media. But I beg the press corps in the future to pay attention what's in these bills and only use the phrase hardcore conservative to describe people who are voting for hardcore conservative bills. The next thing that I think we should point out here today, and the importance in having that large reduction in spending, is the degree to which, don't mean to bore you with numbers, the degree to which, on a daily basis, our country gets in worse and worse shape. And that is because the interest rates go up. That's no vote that we take here in Congress. I mean, we fight trench warfare here on a variety of bills. Sometimes the bills are just minor bills that have a few $1 million in them. But in the last 2 days, because of an increase in interest rates, the amount of money we are going to have to spend on interest just interest in the next year, went up $12 billion. Since April, when interest rates were like 3.5%,
Gentleman's time's
the
expired.
cost in interest has gone up over $100 billion. We have serious problems here, and I
Gentleman's
think
time's
the
expired.
cost in interest should also be reported by the press. Thank you very much.